Good morning. Welcome to Fridays with Francis. I trust that you have had a good week. It is a pleasure to be with you again on this Friday. I wanted to start by telling you a story I heard. Um, the late Don Lee Harris, a minister that served faithfully in our North Carolina annual conference of the United Methodist Church for many years, told this story. He was talking about a fishing trip that he had gone on. A church member had invited him to go fishing, and so they went out fishing, and they were out in um, pretty far from shore. They were not land was not visible to them at all, and while they were out there fishing, they were catching nothing, and the wind was very still. There was no wind, only the sun beating down. And as Don told the story, he said, it was then that I began to remember why it was I didn't like to go fishing. Well, he went on and relayed several details about that fishing trip, but one that I really remember well was he said at one point he reached his hand in his pocket. He had put on a lightweight jacket to carry with him, and he reached his hand in his pocket and he felt something. When he pulled it out, it was a tag. Maybe, a tag that you would find on a mattress or um and the tag said, not good if detached. Not good if detached. He said immediately he began trying to figure out, well, where did this tag come from? Was it a mattress, or was it a piece of furniture that he and his wife had purchased? Well, what exactly did this tag come off of? And he really racked his brain about it for quite some time, not really coming up with an answer. He said, and then it dawned on him, after he had pondered this question for quite some time, that it really didn't matter where it came from. It was not good if it was detached. Therefore, the tag was no good at all. He went on to relay how that is with us oftentimes in our relationship with Christ. If we allow ourselves to become detached from the source, then we're not effective in what we are supposed to be doing for the kingdom. The best example of this we find in Scripture in the 15th chapter of the Gospel of John. That is where Jesus begins by teaching the disciples and saying, I am the vine, you are the branches. And when we get down to verse 4, we read these words. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. When Jesus said that we are the branches and he is the vine, and we need to stay attached to him, it is the reverse of what Don found in his pocket, not good if detached. Because you see, as long as the branch is connected to the vine, there are several things that we know for sure. First of all, we understand that as long as the branch is connected to the vine, the branch owes its identity to the vine. I mean, only if it's attached to the grapevine is the branch a part of the grapevine. Other than that, it's just a dying piece of a vine. When we think about our relationship with Christ, it's very important that we remember that we must keep ourselves attached to Christ. That's what we in the Wesleyan movement, in the teachings of John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church, understand, is that uh, we are to attend to what Wesley called the holy ordinances of God: fasting and prayer, worship, public and private, holy conferencing. So the real question is, are we attached to the vine? Are we attached to the source? Or are we trying to manage life on our own? Are we out there doing our own thing, thinking that somehow we can accomplish what we need to accomplish? Jesus said to the disciples, "You are my witnesses, first in Jerusalem, then in Judea, Samaria, and to the uttermost parts of the world." But that only happens if we are attached to the source of life. It's very ineffective if we tend to launch out on our own. Situations, circumstances out of the Bible indicate this many times over. A second thing that we know from this text is that the vine cannot sustain itself. That the branch, if it is separated from the vine, cannot sustain itself. It's dependent upon the vine to give it life. When Jesus said, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." It's an invitation for us to remain attached to Christ, because we can't sustain ourselves if we're by ourselves. Have you ever seen a campfire? And on that campfire, as the fire begins to die down, have you ever watched an ember roll off of the fire onto the ground beside the fire? And you watch it, and the red glow that is a part of that ember begins to die off, and it takes on more of an ashen look until the red glow is completely gone. And if it stays there long enough, the coal will become cool enough for you to pick up with your bare hand. But then when you take that same coal and put it back on the fire, it's not very long before it again takes on the properties of the fire. Being the witness for Christ without being sustained by the power of Christ is kind of like being the coal away from the fire. And the final thing I would say about this text for us on this Friday is that the only way that the branch can bear fruit is to be a part of the vine. This Friday, as we're moving into the second Sunday of Advent, maybe it's a good time for us to think about staying attached, being connected to the Christ of God, staying attached so that we know who we are, that we know what we're to do, and that we understand where life comes from, or another way of saying that we know whose we are. I pray that you have a great day today, and that this is a meaningful time as we search how we are invited to grow spiritually in this season of preparation. I pray that you go in peace and that God blesses you in this Advent season.